Hello, good evening, Matilde. Thanks for waiting. We're starting a little bit, well, later than always today, but how are you? Is everything okay? Let me know, please.
I'm okay. I'm okay. Thank you.
Great. That's good to know. So, today we have to work with this lesson finally. I don't know if we got to see this with you before. We've mentioned the past perfect, but have we covered this as a lesson with you before? Let me know, please, Matilde.
I think we haven't, but I mean, we did talk a bit of this tense, but not like, yeah, covered by a presentation.
Great. Yes, I wanted to be sure about that, but yes, I believe that A11 is actually the first time we get to see this. It's the past perfect, all right? Again, the logic of using this, it's very simple, but it's important to understand again why we have to use it, because actually we can be in English, right, in this language without using the past perfect. It's not as common. However, all right, it's important if we want to be formal, if we want to understand all the things that we have written in articles and papers, because it's common to see this in some papers. And also to have the correct usage of English, it is important to have it over there. But as you're going to see, it can be avoided. But let's try to understand what do you have in mind when you read past perfect? What do you think is the characteristic, or what do you know, what do you remember about our short conversation about the past perfect? Let me know, please, Mati.
Yeah. Well, in this tense we use the auxiliary have. Well, in past, and the the verb also in the past tense. So, like, had traveled somewhere, but yeah, I mean, it's different. Yeah, I don't know really how to explain it, but
So how would it be? Let's try again to go deeper, because this is going to help even being all right more aware of its difference. So when you say, right, I have done my homework before, and when you say just I had done it, what do you believe is the difference between those two? Okay, I have done it and I had done it.
mm, well, in that situation, I mean, yeah, in that situation, I don't know, because there's no time reference. So yeah, I don't know what exactly would be the difference between these two.
All right, in that case, actually, yes, we cannot see the difference, but just by using the two tenses, we can imagine that the context is different. All right, just by using the two different tenses. In the first tense, we know that it's indefinite past. Okay, just that in I have done it. But in the second tense, in the second example, we have to be sure that there's another event in the past, and what we had done it happened before that event. Okay, even though we are not mentioning that event, that's going to be there always. Every time we use the past perfect, there had to be another event that happened after the past perfect. Okay, so once again, there we can say that in the conversation, we were talking about a due date, okay, for completing something in the past, right? And I can tell you, I believe I mentioned this example in the sense of telling you, okay, Matilda, you didn't finish, all right? Or yes, I'm going to tell you this, okay? So you didn't finish the last assignment, okay, last week for the previous model, right? And you just tell me, no, actually, I'd done it, okay? I've had done that before the due date, okay? But that's something that you cannot do with the present perfect. It's impossible. because the present perfect cannot be before specific times in the past because it's in specific. All right, but actually the present perfect is specific, but only when you want to say that something happened before another event in the past. Okay, but we're going to be even more clear with this. Treat the two examples, please, Natalia.
Okay. In June, she traveled to the US. By June, she had traveled to the US.
What are the differences that you can spot here? Here we're not talking about the present perfect and the past perfect, but we're talking about the simple past and the past perfect. And there's also a difference between these two. And something that is going to help us is even the time expression. So what do you say? What is the difference between number one and number two over here?
Well, in the first case, yeah, it's simple past, it's a finished action. So in the month of June, she completed this trip. But in the past perfect, by June, until that date, she supposed to travel already to the US. So yeah, in the first one it's a completed action, and the second one it's referring, and also the by part is referring that, but that day she should have traveled. No, she had traveled, sorry, to the US.
Exactly, good. So one of them, the first one, is mentioning something that happened at a specific time in the past, right? But the second one is always, even though we don't have June, even though we just say she had traveled to the US, we have to imagine that there is a context in which something was mentioned, and this person is saying that this action had happened before that other action, right? So in this case, it is before June, but in the first case, it is or it was in June, right? Something that happens in one specific time is the simple past, and something that happened before one specific time is the past perfect, right? So that's the main difference. And remember, the present perfect is something that happened in the past, but we don't know when, and we don't know if there's still a connection in the present. It's not possible to have a connection between the past perfect and the present. Okay, it's not possible. And actually, with the past perfect, you have to be specific, but you don't mention when it happened, you mention before what it happened. All right, that's always going to be the idea. Even though you can use when as a connector, the idea is always before that event. All right, so let's read this very simple definition about the past perfect, please, Matilde.
Okay. Use the past perfect to talk about a past event that happened before another past event. It means that the past perfect will always be the earlier event in the past.
Great, thank you, right? So that's always going to be the logic. Even though you don't see connectors that tells you, right, or that tell you, sorry, that one is the first one, the other one is the second one, here you can always think that this is the first, okay? If you have two, three, four, five elements in the past, and the past perfect is at the end, but it's the only past perfect and the other ones are simple past, you can imagine that the past perfect is the earlier event. All right, at least the earlier event to the ones that are close to the past perfect in terms of connection, not words, but how close they are in that paragraph, for example. Okay, but we'll go to see that later on to understand that even better. I believe that you have this, the formulas, right? Very simple. Is had with all of them, right? All of the subjects. Had, not if it's negative, and of course inversion if it is a question, right? I had done it before you arrived. I hadn't finished, right, by the time she called me. Or what had you done by the time the class started? Right? In all those examples, I'm asking and telling about things that happened before. All right, always before an event. Now, these are the words that we can use to connect these ideas. And again, it doesn't matter what the order is. You know that the past perfect is always the first event, and the simple past or a time reference in the past is always going to be the second event. All right, so you have by the time, you have when, you have before, and you have after. And in all those structures, you can clearly see that they are followed by specific tenses, right? So you have by the time, simple past, someone did something or something happened, comma, past perfect, something had happened before that time. The same with when. Even though we're using when, it has the same usage as by the time, right? When, simple past, past perfect. Okay, here we don't have it, but we need a comma, right? Every time this is at the beginning, we need a comma. The same over here, right? Before simple past, comma, past perfect, or this is the only one that is different, Matilde. After past perfect, comma, simple past. Okay, after is the only one that has to be followed by past perfect. The rest of the ideas, they are followed by the simple past first and then the past perfect. But remember that you can always work with inversions, right? And you can say, for example, in the first case, past perfect by the time simple past. Or not only by the time, as you can see over here, you can use time references as by a specific date, year, or month, or times, right, in that year, by the middle of that year, by a specific celebration, anything that is referring to a time expression, and you want to say before that time expression this happened, you can use by and that reference. Okay, but let me know first if you have any questions up to this part so that we can start practicing a little bit with it. Let me know, please, Matilde.
No, no questions for now.
All right. So let's go to our file, please. Okay. And we're going to start practicing first with 4 examples. One example per expression that we got. One with by, one with when, one with before. The only one you have to be careful with is after, right? Because the order is different. So let me know when you are in the file, ready to start, so that we can take that into account to start with the timer, please.
I'm already there.
All right, very good. So let's work with 4, examples. We're going to have 4 minutes until it's 9:34, 9:38, 39 more or less. But if you finish before, again, let me know. If not, we check at that time, please, Matilde. Okay? If you have questions, please let me know.
All right.
Good. Okay, it is 39. Let me know how you're doing, please, Matilda, so that we can check your work.
Um, I I'm still working in the after example.
Good. Let's finish that one, please. It's important to have that clear. So finish with that. Tell me when you're done and we check, please.
I think it's done.
Very good. I'm going there and let's check everything. All right. Good. All right. So let's read what you got, please, Matilda.
Okay. By the time she arrived, we had modified the whole project. When I intervened the conflict, the actors already had a fight. Before they changed their mind, the vendors had already charged the sales to their credit card. And after she had ruined her computer, she had a crisis. She really needed it.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Matilda. Great. Again, the structure that we're using is correct in all the cases by the time simple, past perfect, right? In the second, just one detail. Remember that even though we can use already in many places and it's still going to be clear, right? Remember that the two best places are either in between the auxiliary and the verb or at the end of the sentence, right? So it's better if you say the actors had already had because it also helps, right? Given the space to the auxiliary and the verb, and it's like it has a little bit more impact in that case, and at the end just in different situations, but that will be the observation there. And when you say to intervene in English, you're going to use also the preposition to intervene in something. All right, so we are going to say when I intervened in this conflict, well, something had already happened before that. Then before, yes, simple past, then past perfect, like in the third case, right? You have it over there. That's great. The credit card. Okay. Yes, if it's the one credit card that they are sharing, it's good. I believe that here they want to correct to plural, but no, it's not necessary. If you say that it's one credit card for those people, then it's good. And then after she had ruined her computer, she had a crisis, right? In this case, again, first the action related to the computer and then the crisis, right? She really needed it. I believe that that's it. That will be the only detail over there, this preposition and this detail over here. I don't know if you have any questions so far about the past perfect. We're going to actually apply now this in something we haven't done in a while also, that is writing some paragraphs, because we need to now try to mix this in something in the past, and we have to try to use it along with the simple past, with other connectors, with the past continuous if it's possible, and even the present perfect if it's possible, in one complete story that makes sense. All right, but before going there, let me know if there are some questions or comments, please, Matilde.
Mm, just one question. If I invert the order in after, I mean, I could have started backwards, right? Or I should every time I should start with the past perfect. Like she had a crisis after she had ruined her computer.
Yeah, in that case, that's not going to be possible, because if we do that, if we say she had ruined her computer after, right, she had a crisis, or, but no, if you have to do, for example, the inversion, it's correct in all the cases. You can say, right, she had a crisis after she had ruined her computer, it's perfect, right? As long as you're always using the past perfect after the word after, is good, right? But if you use the past perfect and then you use the word after, and after the word after you use, all right, repeating that, the simple past, then there's going to be something that is going to be incoherent. That is the word after, right? Why? Because you are saying that the action that grammatically speaking always happens first happened after another action in the past, and that's going to create again something that is a grammatical mistake. All right, so you can work on the inversion as long as you keep the same idea, right? Simple past, and after the word after, the past perfect. But again, if you try to use the word after the past perfect, then it is going to be incorrect. I don't know if that helps, or if you have questions about that, Matilde, let me know,
Yes.
please.
Yes, it's clear
Okay,
enough.
good. Now, I believe that we just have some examples and some details of expressions that we can use that are very similar to the past, sorry, to the present perfect expressions. So let's take a look at that, and we go to our writing practice. Yes, there you go. Already that you've used, yet that we can use in negative, and never that we use in affirmative sentences but with a negative meaning, right? And this is actually what we're going to try to use. But first, before using them, we're going to read the examples, have some ideas, because we're going to use these elements, and Matilde, the ones over here, as part of the writing exercise that I told you. We're going to have one or two paragraphs about a past experience or situation, but you have to structure everything in a way in which you're telling me these past perfect, right, as events that happened before others event or other events in the past, and even along with present perfect ideas that are talking about your experience that can be related to this present. Okay, so we're going to try to mix everything, of course, as it is possible. We don't have to use a lot of examples of each type, only if, again, the logic make us will make it possible for us to use these examples. All right, but at least one or two examples have to be with the past perfect and at least one with the present perfect. But we're going to talk about that once again after we read these examples, please.
By 2010, I had already graduated from school. When you arrived, the show had finished. Before she mentioned it, we hadn't realized that it was there yet. After they'd studied for months, the professor canceled the test. By the time you entered the classroom, the practice had already begun. Before it happened, I had never thought of that idea.
Thank you very much, Matilde. Now, again, this is just to give us some ideas because afterwards we have some questions that's going to be to finish the presentation for today. But before going there, again, have some ideas from this part or try to think of possibilities. Remember that this is to tell stories even in a better way, to be better organized, or to talk about events that happened in the past that are past part, sorry, of history, or yes, mainly history, right? You can be talking about what happened in the Second World War, and you can say that before this event, right, the Allies had already invaded this place, right? So they use a lot of these elements, or the dinosaurs, right? Before this event happened, the dinosaurs had already been right on the border or the edge of something else, and so on and so forth, right? You're always going to mention things that happened before other events in the past, and your story can be similar, right? You can tell me, I remember about one time in which I was doing something, right? You can use there the past continuous. I was playing with, yes, I was playing some video games with my cousin. And I remember that before, right, my mom got home, we had already finished cleaning everything. But I don't know what happened, right? Many things were not cleaned as we thought they were. And there, right, just by using those ideas, I've used the past continuous, I've used the simple past, right? And even, right, we can try using a the present perfect. But to use the present perfect in between that story, it can be a little bit complicated because remember, it cannot be used in a context in which you're talking about the past of the past, because it can be the past, but something always when it's a past that is indefinite. So you cannot talk about a past that is mentioned before another event in the past because now that's definite. And you cannot use it about something that we know that happened before that time because again, the logic of the present perfect cannot be there. All right. So only if you find the way of using the present perfect as one expression talking about your experience, right? It's possible. If not, well, it's not necessary to use it every time. Again, it depends on the context. But I wanted to mention that so that you know that you can talk about many things. If you want to talk about history, do it. All right. You can give me one paragraph talking about any event that happened in history, right? In human history, it's valid. If you want to tell me an experience that you had using the past perfect, it is also valid. Okay. Anything that comes to your mind in which you can use this. So let me know if you have any questions. The condition is going to be one paragraph first. We're going to see how it is going to be done. This paragraph needs to have at least 6 complete ideas. And the other condition and the last one, besides using the past perfect, the simple past, and trying to use the past continuous or the present perfect, besides that, try to use please the transitional words that we've been using before, right? For example, transitional words for sequence, first, second, secondly, of contrast, right? However, nonetheless, nevertheless, of addition, if it's possible, additionally, moreover, furthermore, and so on and so forth, right? Of course, according to what your paragraph is going to be about, the transitional words also can be different. So I don't know if you have any questions or anything before I give you this time to work on this material. Let me know, please.
I think it's clear. Just to sum up, I create this paragraph with it, well, this paragraph needs 6 complete ideas, and I need to use transitional words. and I need to try to use as past tenses.
Correct, exactly. The let's say the priority is to use the past perfect and the simple past, right? That combination, because that's the perfect combination. But again, as in my story, if you get to use the past continuous, it's also possible because it's always a good idea to use the past continuous as the context of your story, right? But if you don't get to use the present perfect, for example, there's not a problem. All right, only if it's possible and you find the right spot, do it. If not, again, with the past perfect and the simple past, and at least one in the past continuous would be good. All right, that would be the priority. So let's do it then, please. Again, 6 ideas. It means like 6 minutes to 7 minutes for this one paragraph. If you have questions, let me know. I don't know if you have any, Matilde.
No, no questions.
All right, so let's do it then, please. Again, 6 minutes. It means it's 9:55 now. It's going to be 10:01 or 10:02 that we're going to check. All right, good. All right, so it's 10:03. I don't know how you're doing. Let me know, please, Matilde, so that we can check what you got.
Um, I think I've write a lot of ideas. I mean, I could go on, but um, yeah, I think it's good until now. Yeah.
Yes, you have plenty of ideas over there. Yes, I believe that that's going to be more than enough, at least to check now. Of course, we can always, right, keep going. We can separate that even in different paragraphs. We're going to see how much we got over there. But I believe that, again, we're checking now because of the time. It is going to be great. And actually, we're going to complement this with something else because today we're going to be focusing just in this writing exercise. But first, let's read what you got, please, so that we can see how we can connect that to our next idea.
Okay. Obtaining my graduation title was a complete nightmare. To begin with, I completed my degree in a very turbulent political time. By November 2018, I had completed my bachelor's degree. It was really tough. We had a whole presidential change in this time and 21 days in which I couldn't go to the university due to the civic strike. For this reason, I've been told to be patient in the mission in my title. New people in the education ministry had been placed, so it was obvious that it would have taken more time than usual. I really thought that this issue would have been fixed by April, but something else happened before. COVID had arrived to Bolivia.
Great. Thank you very much, Matthew. So again, feedback about it. In general, again, you have a lot of ideas and everything seems to be working great. Maybe some details. I believe that even punctuation seems to be great. Just details about some apostrophes and S and the preposition in two cases. Then I believe that afterwards everything else seems to be good. So I'm going to reread this again to see if we have something else. All right, so we have this part, yes, to begin with, complete my degree, yes. Now here, right? Remember that if you talk about the degree, talking about bachelor, master, and the doctorate or the PhD, that is going to be something else. In the two first cases, you always need apostrophe S to make it as part of the real name. That is going to be not the possession, but a part of this degree, right? So we're always going to say bachelor's in this case. All right. Then here you're going to say when you're talking about a very specific time reference, instead of in, you can change that to at, because in is going to be like inside a period of time. But as you're talking about at a very specific time, then at is going to be the best option over there. All right. Then you have the next part, yes, in which we couldn't or I couldn't go to the university due to this strike. Yes, I've been told. Yes, if this is not related to any past idea, yes. If this is not again something that happened before, another past idea over there, yes. But here, even you have to analyze this, Matilde. If this is something that someone told you before you did something in the past, here you can use the past perfect instead of the present perfect, right? Why? Because this story actually doesn't have a connection with the present anymore, right? You can say that in the past, before now, you've been told to be patient, right, with this, but if you hadn't worked on this issue until now. But I believe that in your story, you're showing that even though, of course, it was right, like hard to do it, you did it. So that's why I believe that in this case, it would be better to use the past perfect. All right, because there's no possible connection with the present perfect anymore, or with the present actually anymore. I don't know if you agree or if you have questions about that. Let me know, please.
Yeah, it makes more sense. And I was thinking about that while I was writing it. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, it makes sense.
Very good. Okay, so I'm going to make that for you. Remember that we can always contract that in the same way as would, but we know that is had because of the past participle, right? That is telling us that it is well, the past perfect and not would. Then, yes, new people in the education ministry had be replaced. So, yes, that's also past perfect. It was obvious that it would have taken. Uh huh. Yes. And in this case, we're going to analyze. Mm, all right. I really thought that this issue would have been fixed by April. All right. But something else happened before COVID-19 arrived or had arrived to Bolivia. All right. So again, here the thing that, for example, like Grammarly is suggesting is related to how we can use different ideas to restate what we have over here. But in a general way, I believe that everything is clear. I have no other observations. There are some details that we can change in general, the suggestions that they are giving, but in order to use the past perfect as we were required, I believe that it is working great. So I don't know if you have any questions about this exercise before trying to complete this with some extra elements about the past perfect. Let me know, please, Matilde.
Um, I mean, no. Now I'm wondering if in this sentence, where is it? So it was obvious that it would have taken. In this case, I could have used past perfect, or
Yeah,
would
yeah,
have
I'm analyzing
fixed.
these ideas that you have. In which you say would have, would have. You have two places, right? Let me find the other one. You have over there one, and the other one is the right. I really thought the issue would have been fixed, right? But I believe in the first case, yes, it is good. But actually, in that case, yes. Um, Now I have the idea. It's clear. It's okay that you use would, but I don't know if you remember we covered something future in the past. Okay? And in future in the past, actually, we don't have to use the perfect model. We only use the model, the simple model, because that is going to tell us the idea that we want. Okay? Because the past, to use the perfect model, that is the past model, is only mainly to give conclusions, remember, or would have is mainly for regrets or for events that you are criticizing that didn't happen. But in this case, you're talking about something that didn't happen in terms of prediction, but about the past, something that you thought in the past. Okay, but the present model or the past model is something that you're thinking now about a past situation. All right, but it was not something that you thought at that time. So in the two cases then in which you are using would have, if you are using the expression I thought, you only use would. And if you're not using I thought or I knew or I hoped, then you can use the past of be going to. All right, so it would be like this. In the first case, it was obvious that it was going, all right, it would have taken more time, that it was going to take more time than usual. That's one possibility. And at least the second one is going to be more important. I really thought that this issue would be fixed by April. All right, because that's the idea that you have in the structure that we call future in the past. Okay, but something else happened before, right? And remember, that's the exact structure for future in the past. I thought in simple past would, just would in the main form, not the present form, or the just not the perfect form, and then the but or the contrast that is telling us why it didn't happen. And in this case, you're talking about something that happened before that, that is COVID. All right. So again, my recommendation here would be fixed. All right. This issue would be fixed by April, but something else happened before. And here, just one last detail. Remember, instead of using the Spanish way to say arrive to a place, you have to say arrive in a place, at a place, or on a place, right? So it's going to be here arrive in Bolivia. All right, there you go. And again, the other suggestions that they are giving are purely related to how we can use other emphasizers, adjectives to change the idea, to give it right more emphasis. But now I believe that we have it in a better way. I don't know if you have questions about that detail over there, Matilde. Let me know, please.
No, that's about it.
All right, good. And mhm, yes, and you can also do the same in the other case in which you are using would, but as you don't have the idea of I thought, or you don't have the emphasis, or sorry, the contrast, then over there it seems to be good, right? Just in this case seems to be a better option because you have the contrast showing the structure of the future in the past. But that's it. I believe that that's it. I don't know if you have any questions about it. Well, any extra questions? If you don't, I'm going to ask you now some questions to be finishing this activity. All right. The first one is the following. It says, what had you done by the time you were 15 years old? What do you say, Matilda? How can you answer that?
Okay, so by the time I was 15 years old, I had moved, I had lived in 3 different cities.
All right. Yes, that is perfect. Three actions that started and finished before you were that age. Right? Great. Then, where had you traveled by 2015?
By 2015, I had traveled to Argentina a few times.
There you go. And the last one, had you graduated from school or university before the pandemic began?
No, it's related to my paragraph. Yes and no.
Okay,
Yes, I had graduated before the pandemic, but not in
exactly.
paper.
Yes, that's right, right? So you finished everything, you graduated right officially, but of course you needed the paper right over there, but that took some extra time. Okay, good. So again, that's the logic, right? The logic of using the past perfect is always, always, always going to be related to another event in the past. You cannot use this alone because if you use this alone, it's not going to make sense. All right, you can simply use the simple past, right? Instead of saying, yes, I had traveled, it's not going to be worth using I had traveled if you're not going to mention another event in the past before which you traveled, right? If you're not going to mention anything like that, just use the simple past, right? This is going to be the case in which you want to show that something happened before. And again, also you can avoid using this if you're clear with your connectors. If you use clear connectors like first, second, afterwards, before that, you don't need also to use the past perfect. All right. But actually, you can still do it if you want to show that you know when to use it and how you can use it. But it can be avoidable if you have good connectors and a clear structure again that make us understand without using the past perfect what event happened first and which one followed to that event. All right, so it's always going to be, let's say, quotation marks optional as long as you can organize your ideas. But again, it's always a good idea, once again, to know how to use it. So, with that, again, and because of and the time we use in that one, we're going to be finishing. I don't know if you have any final questions. It can be about this, it can be about anything else. Remember, today is the fifth class. We have to also be working on Pearson. So I don't know if you have questions or comments about that, Matilde. It can be about Pearson, it can be about this lesson, the previous lesson. Let me know, please.
No, well, Pearson, I think I have this weekend also, right, for Pearson?
Yes, actually, let's verify. You have even some extra days after Sunday. So today is the fifth class. then the 6th, 7th, 8th, and we have one extra that is Monday. So yes, I gave you until Monday the 5th, and I believe the 6th, it's more surely it was until Monday the 5th.
Okay.
Okay, so you have until next week, Monday the 5th, to complete this model material.
Good.
All
Good.
right, good. There you go. So now, as always, I'm sharing the poll with you. Thanks again for being here today. Tomorrow we will continue as we cover this was a very important lesson. We're going to resume our TOEFL practices tomorrow. Okay, have a good night and see you tomorrow, Matilde.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.